Hi, and welcome to VFX Tutors. I'm Josh, and in this tutorial we're going to be continuing with building our accurate set geometry. We've exported all our data out from 3DE, so now we should bring it into Maya, or whatever software that you plan on using. It's all the same methods. And yeah, let's start building some accurate geometry. So I've got Maya open, and first of all I'm just going to go File, Import, and I'm going to go to my exported file, so my MM27 set build cams, and I'm going to select import. So that should have imported in. It might take a little bit longer than usual because we've got a few image planes coming in. Cool. So now if we zoom out, we can now see like our point cloud that we've made, and we've made some really useful reference for, well, some survey data for building our building. And this is what we're going to use to build our accurate set geo for. So our next step is to bring in that geometry, so we can see all the cameras that I did, or from all the images that I took. Cool. So we'll just import in our geometry. So our PC mesh. And now we've got some rough geometry, just as a guide. It's sometimes really useful to have this because it's just a nice visual aid sometimes, but you don't have to bring it in. You can, the more points you have, the more you'll sort of see how the building goes together. So if we open up our scene, we see we've got all these cameras. You can go perspective and select them, or you can middle mouse roll and drag, and now you can see that we've got our image. But we need to put our undistorted plates. So if we go to our image plane shape and select our file, we can see the way we exported it last time. We just put them in the same file, and it automatically, if you don't give it a name, it will call it the same name but dewarped, which is quite useful in this case because we can keep the matching frames, images, sorry. So we're just looking for 3845, and we have it here. Let's click open, and now we have the undistorted image. So we're just going to go through and do that for all of them. So 3846. And this is useful because you might not use all these cameras, but it's good to check that it's working in all of them. 3848. So I'm just going to quickly load in all these. You can see how they're nicely fitting around. This is why you should always, when you're modeling stuff, you should always work on undistorted plates or undistorted reference images, because you can see how much that's changed it. So whenever you're modeling something, you really want to remove the distortion from it, because you can see how this is not fitting. This is not really fitting at all. So you'd end up modeling that in. So, which is really bad, because then that means it's not going to work in all perspective. The way we've done this, we've made it work in multiple perspectives, so it's going to be guaranteed to fit perfectly in, say, one of your shots. You could almost, if you had some footage that maybe I should have filmed something there as well, then I could have put the sequence camera in the same folder, same 3D, and tracked it. I'd have had to make some more geometry though, but it's just different methods to get around if you don't have the geometry. And now you can see how that fits nicely. This might take a bit of time, but just speed through it. So you can see all the images are not really fitting, but as soon as I put the undistorted image on, it does. This is a really key thing if you're modeling stuff as well for plate. Anything that needs to be modeled for to go in footage really needs to have undistorted reference images. It will just mean it will work, and you won't be in pain trying to figure out why it's not working. 353. Now, I'm almost done. 3, 5. And this also, if you like, we will also be doing tutorials on how you can get scans and stuff for free as well. So this is just another option if you don't want to go down that route or you want to try something different. But we will try every single possibility to try and get you your accurate set geometry. For 16. And that's the last one because the other last one is just the lens grid. So we can delete that. We don't need any lens grids. So I'm just going to go back to my first image. And I'm just going to go panels and tear off a copy. So you can work in this view or vice versa. I kind of like to work with my camera view in the torn off window so I can move it around. I like to have my main window as perspective so I can move around. So let's go show selection highlighting. So we've got our kind of rough geo, and we can just use this as a reference. One sec, let's set up our, we didn't set up the camera so we can see, so we've set the camera. It's the same with every other shot. We'll change our alpha gain to 0.7. Our depth to 1. Smooth shade or wireframe or shaded. Is that not updated? 345. Okay. Sometimes it might take a while to. There we are. It's updated now. We should have, if we go to our settings and time slider, should have update view all on, but it doesn't seem to always update very fast. But anyway, so now we can sort of see our windows and all our buildings. So I'm just going to make sure that I just keep this as reference. I don't really ever want to use this because you can clean it up or you can just start with something fresh and clean. So I'm just going to start with a plane. And this is quite, this might be a bit tricky because I've only got one screen, but let's create a plane and let's just make it completely square with no subdivisions. And I'm just going to scale it up. So I can kind of see that our scene is kind of not square. So if I put this under our scene group, so you can either just model with it slightly being off, but it can be quite infuriating if you're modeling stuff that's not square, because it's really nice just to be able to put stuff in that's kind of aligned correctly straight away. So I'm just going to make a cube now. Make a big cube. I'm just going to rotate my scene. Let's just hide that plane because it's getting in the way. Select my scene. I'm just going to rotate. I'm not worried about scale at the moment. I'll do that at the end. So I'm just going to. Obviously, this building's probably not going to be perfectly square, but whatever we can do to help our modeling process is going to just be nice. All right, so. And it's probably, let's just imagine that this is the top of the square. So it might be a little bit of a funny angle, but it could just be that the building's not straight. Don't always trust buildings are perfectly straight. As much as you would like them to be perfect, sort of 90-degree angles and stuff like that. It's very unlikely that they ever are, but this should help us with our modelling. Cool, so let's lock our scene now so we don't move that. So select our scene, I'm going to right click and lock, so now I can't move it. So let's delete that cube, don't really need it. You can model with a cube if you want. In fact, let's do that actually, it's probably better. So I'm going to start with a cube. So it's probably quite cramped, this window, so I'm just using my 2D pan. So I'm going to select my cube. Let's just pull this out of the way. I'm going to press Insert, hold a V, and snap it to the corner. Then I'm going to hold V, I'm going to snap it to this locator. So you can hide your points if you want. You don't need it, because you can just use your points as reference. So now I'm just going to scale my cube until I hit that locator on the end. So that's that one. So I'm just using all my points as correct reference. If we turn our show selection highlighting on, we can see that we've got a pretty good shape already. Like it looks like it's fitting. We could probably scale it up so it's, we can just about see the ground here. So I'm going to guess the ground is about there. Probably a bit up because these are extruded. These are extruded out. So I'm just trying to get as much as I can without removing this, the shape of this basic cube, basically. So I'm just going to go through and probably set up these cameras the same as the other ones. So plane shape 1, 0.7. Just going to quickly do that. And even though you can sort of, we haven't got much details back there, but we can see this perspective is working really well. And really, like, you may not always use this, but if you do know it, this can be an absolute lifesaver. And as we go through, it's actually, we were going to go through most of the shots anyway to see how they fit. So as we can see, it's working really well in every single perspective, which is a very good sign. See, we come around. We see we've not quite got the depth in the Z-axis for that, but we can change that when we get to it. So we can see we've just extruded out too far. So, or just scaled it, sorry, we haven't extruded anything. We're trying to keep it all within the square. Where were we up to? 3852. I'm just still going to go through, change all the depth. 7. And as we do go through, we can see it's working really well. So try and do these as quick as possible. Probably should have done it the first time. Sorry about that. Probably could automate this in a script, to be honest. But where's the learning in that? Yeah, it's good to know how to do these sort of things. Sometimes when you work in an environment where everything's scripted, then you only ever know how to use that script. And if something breaks and you need to know how to do something manually, you kind of don't know how to do it because you've always relied on scripts. So sometimes doing things manually is quite beneficial. But obviously you don't want to do things manually for your entire life. You want things to be made easy at some point. What's happened with that one? What's happened with this camera? Seem to off. That might be the. I may have just brought. The points look right, but I think I may have put the wrong image on it. So it's always good to double check. Yeah, I put the wrong one on it. Damn. No, 3861. I don't remember any of them not fitting like that, so sorry about that. When you're working with lots of the same ones, it can sometimes get a bit confusing or just miss things. It happens. Cool. So where were we? We were just checking the profile on that. You can just bring that in. Cool. I'm happy with that. See, this is all fitting really nicely. So I'm going to pick my main. I think my main one that I'm going to use for my modeling is probably this camera. I quite like that. So now I've kind of got the rough shape out of it. I think that's a little bit longer though. But don't forget. So that's kind of working on that. So I think that's probably correct. So I've kind of got the square shape of it. Now I can go probably adjust the faces a little bit more. I'm going to right click and press face. Hold W. Just going to bring that up. So you can either go and do all this detailing in one. I'm going to just block it out for now. So I'm going to just call this house front section. We can rename these again later. So I'm just going to Control D, hold V. I'm going to snap it to the side there. So I've just put them next to each other. In fact, let's not bother. Let's not do that. Let's do it a different way. We can select this. In fact, no. Let's do it separately because we can get our model. It's kind of up to you how you want to model this. I'm only modeling this for tracking purposes. If you want to model it more accurately, you'd probably model all these bits separately. So I'm just going to, this is not a modeling tutorial. This is just how to get some very accurate reference geometry so you can do your tracking and make your tracking shots look pretty good. So I'm just going to pull that face up. Keep going. You know, it's sort of, I know that we've gone straight up and we've just pulled it, but you kind of have to trust your trust your points, because you'll be surprised how many buildings are actually really wonky. So there's actually a bit where it doesn't go straight up, it sort of extrudes in, then goes up. So what we can do, we can actually press Ctrl E and extrude this up. And you can see it's the same here. So I'm just going to bring it to the bottom. Ctrl E again for extrude. I'm going to bring that up. So this might not actually be the same all the way around. So let's check that. And we've also realized that our building is not completely in. So let's make sure we get that correct first. So I'm just going to select all my vertices, W, hold V, just snap it to this vertice, because that is on the corner. And I'm going to treat the ground as very flat, but maybe our roof is not perfectly straight. And select these vertices. This is why it's easier to make sure you orientate your scene for modeling, because you can just keep everything in the same orientation without having to move a lot. We've got that point here, so let's make sure that point matches up. And also checking in our camera view, so checking multiple times, different shots, so it's all looking like it's fitting nicely. Can't really see it there. But we can see it here. Cool, so let's go back to our main modeling one. So it does sort of, looks like that comes out. I would probably say that this wall is not perfectly straight. Oh, too much. Right. It's more likely to be level on top, I think, than perfectly straight. So we can pull that out. So what we can do now, we can go to our face selection, click on one face, then double click, so we've selected the edge loop. Then I can just press Ctrl E. Then I can change my thickness. And you see I want to change my thickness as it goes in. So if I just go to my 2D pan zoom, I can change my thickness until it sort of matches up with that corner. Doesn't need very much. But let's check other cameras. Cool, that seems pretty good there. Nice. So let's say we're just using our points as our modeling reference. So what I can do now is, probably should be nice to be able to record two screens, but I don't think it'd fit. Probably wouldn't be too great to watch. So I've selected my main cube here now. I go to my modeling toolkit and I'm going to select multi-cut. Just going to hold Control to make an edge loop. And I'm going to get them lining up those vertices, those locators. You can sort of see that they're not level. Oh, make sure you just have that selected. Just W, bring it down a bit. Because don't believe everything in is built level. Otherwise, yeah, you'll be in a world of frustration. Because most things are not. I've rarely found a building that's actually square. Like, they're close, but obviously it's an old building, so it's probably shifted a lot. So I would imagine that's probably a big factor. So just as long as you're aware, just don't expect everything to be perfectly square. So I'm just using my multi-cut, holding control, and making edge loops, trying to get them as close to the vertices as possible. Locator, sorry. And I'm only going to model the basics of this building. I'm not going to go to town on it and model every single piece, because that could be a very long tutorial. But hopefully we should be able to get through the basics with you. Because you probably, for something like this, you probably could just scan it in some software. But you may not be able to get down there to scan it. This is why you kind of do it. If you can't get to the place that you need to be to scan it, like sometimes you just can't get around somewhere, but this way you can sort of guarantee it. Cool, so let's pick some other cameras. So if we look around, everything's lining up really nicely. Maybe let's do the top bit now. Not too worried about the geometry, so just going to select all these. Deselect that, so I've only got the top part. Just going to Control E. I'm just going to use my offset to sort of push it out a bit. Then we'll extrude again with Control E. Just trying to match this. Sometimes you have to come in a bit close and then up a tiny bit. So if we have a look at our camera, we sort of got the rough shape, even though it's not quite there in the end. So it's looking reasonable. So I'm just going to model from different camera angles. And now I'm just going to make another cube. Because at the moment I'm just blocking it out. I'm not... The best way to start, like if you're getting into modeling, the best thing to always do is block it out first. Because you don't want to go into sort of getting really fine details and stuff. So I'm just going to block out this entire building with just boxes. I'm going to pick points. So I'm going to do the sloped part now. Just going to scale it. I think that's that point. So I think there's probably, sometimes it's just hard to tell where things are going, so I'm just going to pull this all the way back. going to slip this on the bottom. And I'm just going to scale this out. And sometimes you just got to get these angles correct. And definitely always check your other multiple cameras, because we've gone way too far. I think we've moved something here. So you probably also want to make sure that you lock your cameras. Lock your cameras because there are keys on it for some reason. Maybe because I had auto key on by accident, so lock them. Hopefully it looks like I may have moved this camera. Okay, so I think so we got to keep an eye out that I've moved that by accident. So I'm going to import it in again. Sorry about that. That's I probably should have mentioned that right at the beginning. Trying not to move your cameras. It's probably quite a good thing to stick to. But we can just, luckily, we can just import it in again. Just delete those points. We don't need them. We can delete those. Oh. So it's 3846. So yeah, let's select that. Sorry. That. And we also need to make sure that we copy our values onto our scene group, so it's in the same position. So if you do move them by accident, yeah, you can always re-import them and move them as long as you don't lose the transforms. You should be fine, but let's avoid that from the start by locking your cameras. That was my fault. So I'll do this as quick as possible because you might not have done this. So I'm just going to select that camera. 3846 keyboard 7 and 1. Okay, cool. So we're back to normal. So let's lock. So select all your cameras, select all your attributes, just lock them, and select a new one and lock them. So you don't accidentally move them like I did. But now you know how to sort of fix it, so not that it was too complicated, you can just re-import stuff back in. So I'm going to select these edges. I'm just going to scale them in, because I'm not going to model all these tiles and stuff, but I'm just going to try and get them roughly in the correct place. And we can delete that because that's moved. And let's double check these edges. So make sure they're right in that perspective. So they're working here. This one may need to go out a tiny bit more. Then let's go to our other camera. Let's pull this forward. Oh, I'm just going to scale it in. So there's kind of too much on that side. So we've kind of got our basic roof shape. And you can go into much more detail of this. I'm just going to keep it extremely basic. It's just going to be blocking out, so there's going to be nothing more than that. But it will give you a good idea. So I'm going to go up. Press insert. I always like to snap my orient to a corner, so I can just snap it to a nice point. And I think that is on the corner, so we actually need to come a little bit forward. Right, let's scale that up because that's actually on an indented part. Same as we did before. So let's scale that up again. Let's bring that face. Let's use the multi-cut to make that edge loop. Like, you can go into way more detail if you like, but I'm just going to keep it basic. Offset it. So you got that bit in there. So now we've got this part, so we can add in these windows as well. Scale up. I'm just going to do the same for all of it. I'm just going to press Insert V and snap it to the corner. So I can snap these window frames. Probably want to, because that's at the corner of the window frame, but I actually don't want it there, I want it more there. So if I scale this up, as long as those points stay in the correct depth, it'll be all good. Then I can bring this up. Select my face. Let's just pull that all the way back in. Like I said, this is not a modeling tutorial, it's just a quick how to sort of build accurate geometry. Just bring that up to there. So it looks like that does come out a bit more, but cool. So we've got a rough window, and that's even. Bring in our window frame. Cool. So I'm not going to do all the window bits, but so now we've done that, we can actually probably just Control D for duplicate. Probably snap that to that corner part. In fact, let's move our pivot point on that to that, because we can now just move our pivot point to actually where our locator is. So we can just snap to that now, and it should fit quite well. So, albeit some of these roof bits might need refining, but yeah, it all seems pretty good. We'll just Control D, W, hold V, snap it again. Let's turn that off, we don't want that live. Cool, so they're all working pretty well. We've definitely got something odd with this roof right now, so we can fix that a little bit later. So let's select this corner. I think we've got a point here. So let's change our pivot point now. Hold V and snap it to that corner. No, oh, Control Z, Control D, hold V and snap it to that point. You can rotate that round until that fits. Like you would probably try rotating 90 degrees, but it's probably not a 90 degree. It's unlikely these things are square, so. And you'll probably have to adjust these like small amount of adjustments between them. Because like I said, it's not all going to be the same. So we can actually control, because we don't have a locator for this, but we can press Control D. What we can do, we can slide it in the same axis. And this is why it's useful to make sure that your scene is orientated. And we can sort of get that to fit. So let's do these windows. It's multi-cut. Can't really see where that is. Maybe we can see it in another camera. Let's see if we can see these windows. So I'm just sliding up to sort of meets. Go back to that camera. This is the first camera. No, which one was that? Last one? Nope. Which camera was that? Oh, I think it was this one, wasn't it? It's in a different group. Okay. Cool, so that looks reasonable. I'll just use my multi-cut. And there's probably more windows down there, but I can't really see them, so I'm just going to leave them that for now. And you can see the thickness there. Cool, so let's just minimize all this and let's put this up here. So you can see that we've got some pretty basic geometry, and you can continue doing this, making it as nice as you want. I think for the premise of this, I think we're pretty much done. We can go through and oh no, let's do these windows. In fact, let's do sorry, this roof. because it's kind of coming up here. So if you select your whole building, you can go to deform at the top, and you can use Lattice. And if we go to our attribute editor, change our lattice shape, we just change these all to 2. We've now just got a basic box. You need to make sure if you now need to hold right click and select the lattice point. Now select the top one. Probably need to select both of them. Press W, and now you can bring it all down uniformly together. So now it's because we've got multiple divisions on there, it's the easiest way to do it. And then what you can do is just go select your object, and you can select here, which is here, delete all history. You can go edit, delete by type, history, and now that's baked it onto it. So if we select all our geometry, we can see that we've got a pretty good blocking out of the building. Oh, we've got these ones here, which we missed. Let's do those as well. So we'll select that, Control D. I forgot we've got the rest of the building as well. So let's try and do as much as we can, blocking wise. Just so it looks, but yeah, a lot of this is going to be me doing the same thing over and over, so you can fast forward through this bit or continue watching. I'd appreciate it if you continue watching, because it means you're helping me out quite a lot. Just going to use the same one over and over. So we can actually bring back where's our PCC mesh? Let's see how this might help us. So let's make another box. And it's up to you how you model this. If you're an experienced modeler, that's absolutely fine. You can do it a different way. I've done a lot of modeling before, and it's always just the smartest thing to do is just to block it out first. Don't go crazy with super details straight away. Just get those basic shapes, because if you have to redo it, you have to redo it all, and redoing things is not very fun. Ooh. So I'm just gonna select the face. You could probably get most of this model in. I'm gonna make sure that everything is on ground zero though. So let's have a look. So I probably could just extrude this out if I wanted to. And hold V and snap it to that point, because we need to make sure that we extrude out as well. So I'm going to press Control E to extrude, hold V and snap it to that point. So now we're just going to kind of do some more with just one block instead of just making single ones every time. So I'm going to select these two now, because I need to extrude these both out. Just press Control E. I'm going to hold V and I'm going to snap it to the point. Then I'm going to select this last one, Control E, and hold V to snap it to that point. So now we've got that there. So I think, I don't know how far back this block goes, but we can have a look by extruding it up. And we can see it doesn't go far enough at all. See how far it goes up. So what we can actually do, let's Control E, extrude all this up, even though we kind of know It's kind of, we're missing a bit, but it should be fine. Let's snap it to a point. Let's go to our modeling. I guess if you've never modeled stuff before, this might be useful, just to get an idea. So I'm just using my multi-cut. So we'll guess that, sort of get that distance. Select my face. I'm just going to delete them. Don't need them anymore because they don't need to be there. I'm going to right click, select my edge, select those edges, and select bridge, and this will bridge the geometry. Then you can press G and that will repeat the last command. So what I didn't notice before is that when I did this, I didn't do it right to the edge because it's hard to see. So I actually need to push this out so it matches those locators. I'm just going to Control E. That's not Control E. Let's just push this up for now. Then Control E. And this is extruded out a little bit, so we don't want to, if we pull it all the way up to the top, by the time we extrude out, that's going to be too far out. So let's bring it down. We can select that edge loop and press Control E. And change the thickness of it. So it looks like this is on a slant. So what we can do, we can select our vertices and pull them up as we sort of see it. Probably a fairly straight slant, not a curved one, but make sure when you're doing this, you're pulling all the vertices. Cool, so we've got a fairly reasonable shape there. Obviously this probably needs a lot of refining, so we can hide our PC mesh now. And I'm just going to make some multi-cut. Just lay out where these windows are roughly. So you might want to spend more time getting this really accurate. I think we've somehow gone into UV mode. Let's get that door in there. Something this actually goes up. This is actually goes down into a lower bay. Just select all our geometry and just have a look. Cool, so yeah, it's entirely up to you how much detail you want to go into this. Because at the moment it would just be me repeating myself quite a lot at the moment. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Let's So let's, because this is just blocking, what I'm going to do is just going to go to mesh, combine them all. Then I go edit, delete by type, history, and that deletes all the history on it. So make sure you're happy with your model before you do that. And just looking at it, it's fitting. What we want is to make it fit in all the angles. So you can see this is working around here. All these edges are really good. We can do those. Should we do those pillars? We don't really need to, but it should be fine. Cool, so as we go through, let's bring this up. Let's do those windows there, so we can. Cool, so I think we're pretty much done. Alright, you can spend more time on this if you want, and make it look nicer, but this is just a practice shot so you get the idea of what we're really doing. Yeah, so we're pretty much done. So if you enjoy this tutorial, hit that like button and subscribe for more like this.